In the inferior surface of the brain, we identify the cranial nerves, 1, 2, and 3. 4 is a small cranial nerve. I'm not going to try to demonstrate. It escapes from the superior surfaces of the brain stem and then wraps around. It can be identified. It looks like a piece of dental floss, but it's not worth pointing out here. The rest of the cranial nerves are mostly avulsed. At this point, cranial nerve 5, you can just see a nubbin of it, perhaps where my fingers are pointing. 6 emerges from the pontine medullary junction, and I don't see it here in this particular specimen. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 are all would be hand waving at this point to demonstrate them. However, one can make out the vertebral arteries joining together here is in the basilar, and then eventually moving forward to form portions of the circle of Willis, posterior cerebral artery perhaps at the tip of my finger there. The other vessel that you can perhaps see is immediately lateral to the optic chiasm, and that is the carotid coming up on both sides here, and then moving here into the anterior and cerebral artery, crossing in the anterior communicating and making up the rest of the circle of Willis. We'll see these a little better once I've actually cut off the brainstem. Okay, so from the inferior surface of the brain, what we really want to appreciate is, number one, whether there's any evidence of a hemorrhage into the leptomeninges, as one might see with a aneurysm. We don't see that in this particular case. This is normal. And we can also appreciate the cranial nerves and vasculature. So we can identify the posterior brain, that is the cerebellum. Here, it has obviously a different structure. Instead of having gyri and sulci, it has what are called folia, which are just basically miniature forms of those structures. And we can see how they form kind of a natural coning around the upper cervical cord and lower medulla here, where the foramen magnum would be in the intact skull. Make out the pons and its enlargement and all the white matter associated with that. Of course, the gray matter is on the outside of the cerebrum, but when we get into the brainstem, the white matter is on the outside. So what I'm going to do now to get a better appreciation of brainstem structures is first sever the brainstem from the rest of the brain by making an incision across at the level of the third cranial nerves and remove the hindbrain from the rest of the brain specimen. So we'll just make a cut straight across like that, and we'll now look at the inferior surface. You can make out the cerebral aqueduct and the corpora quadrigemina immediately above them. You can see the cranial nerve 3 exiting from the interpeduncular fossa there, and then the crus cerebri on each side, and a little bit of the substantia nigra. But what I'm going to do at this point is slice that off to get a little better appreciation, and we will submit that histologically for evaluation of diseases like Parkinson's disease. So just removing the most rostral portion of that brainstem, we can now better appreciate the substantia nigra and its dark pigmentation. That's a normal coloring. We can also get a little better appreciation of the posterior cerebral artery as it moves back here. Here's the pineal. It's an atrophic structure. Looks just like a bit of spider webs really at this point in this individual, which would be normal for anyone over the ages of 40 or 50. Okay, so that's done.